Travel Growth Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Travel Growth Podcast. I'm Tom McLaughlin, founder of SEO Travel, and this is where I speak to successful travel business leaders and dig into their successes, challenges, and learnings from their experiences over the years, so you, the listener, can take away actionable advice to enhance your own businesses and maybe even lives too. My guest today is Ben Simpson. Ben is the co-founder of Easol, an e-commerce platform specially designed for selling experiences and made specifically for experience creators. After university, Ben helped to build an events business in the UK from a bedroom startup to 1,000 events a year, with 500,000 people attending and employing more than 1,000 people across the UK. He then sold that business and worked at an ad agency before founding Rise Festival, a winter music and snow sports festival in France, which he continues to be a partner in and which doubled in size over the first 3 years since they launched. Alongside that, he ran various travel and adventure orientated events, running parties in unique places like the Sahara Desert and on a Swedish archipelago, before setting up Easol, which he now runs with his wife Lisa. We cover all sorts in our conversation, from marketing and branding to the experience of going through Y Combinator in Silicon Valley and working with other investors. Ben gives some great insight into the hiring process and how they've built a team that are all bought into the project and the lofty goals that they've set for the business and, more recently, their foundation too. Ben is a learning machine, that's clear, and he's picked up so much knowledge through his experiences that he kindly shares here. And I've no doubt that anyone who listens to this episode will have pages and pages of notes afterwards. So get your pen ready. Here's me talking to Ben Simpson. Ben, hello, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Tom.
Yeah, good stuff. Looking forward to talking to you. You've got a bit of a different journey and background to a lot of the people that we've talked to on the show so far. So I'm looking forward to digging into a slightly different side of things with you, and yeah, hopefully uncovering some tips and advice that that other people listening can find really helpful. So yeah, thanks for coming on.
Amazing, excited to share.
Good. So to start, I thought we could maybe look into your personal skill set to begin with. So we'll get into the journey of how you've come to grow Easol and things like that. But just tell us a little bit more about you and your background, what you do, what your expertise is, that side of things.
Sure thing. So I think we're pretty uniquely placed to solve the problem that we're working on at Easol. I grew up fascinated by technology. Spent way too many hours in the IT room at school, but on a weekend grew up with a dad who was an outdoor adventure guide who took me on far too many adventures which were totally age inappropriate. So stuck ice climbing in the pitch black because we had missed timings, and I think the combination of these two things took me on an exciting journey. But essentially grew up obsessed with computers, went off to university and studied e-commerce, and then whilst at university discovered putting on parties and throwing events, and that started very small, grew to being the largest events company in the UK. But through that journey, learned a hell of a lot about marketing, hustling, selling, and I think it's probably those skills come together now. Yeah. Okay. Nice. So with that startup initially, was that something you started up, or was that you going into something that pre-existed? Where there's clearly a very entrepreneurial thread that we'll go through. Was that something you actually started, or was that kind of under someone else's thing? It was someone else's thing. So really good friends of mine, Matt and Jeremy. So Matt started the business in Manchester. Jeremy started the business in Leeds, and that was probably a year or two before I landed in Leeds. And then we met really early in their journey, and I became a partner quite early in the journey, and became managing director a couple of years in, as we went through the big growth period.
What kind of events was it, Ben? Tell us a bit more about that business. What stuff were you doing?
Well, when we started the business, there was only one type of student event. They were big commercial. The music was pretty terrible, and we wanted to put something on that was something we genuinely wanted to go to, and we started throwing parties in really credible venues. So we worked with people like Sankey's in Manchester, Mission in Leeds, Fabric in London, so some of the most credible venues in the UK, and booked amazing talent and put on events that we genuinely wanted to go to ourselves. And that grew to, we were running around 1,000 events a year, and over 1.5 million people a year attended our events in the UK. So it went from very much bedroom startup to a bit of a beast. Yeah,
wow. And what was behind the growth? Was there anything in particular that made it flourish so quickly and so well?
I think fundamentally we were giving people events that they loved and that they were really passionate about, and we learned a lot from that about how we now build product and what we do at Easol. But fundamentally, the product was good. And we were very passionate about delivering a great product, and we never compromised on that. And then we were very efficient in how we marketed. We were very grassroots. We got into every city, and we employed over 1,000 people across the UK on a part-time basis who helped us promote the events. And the infrastructure that we built in order to do that was all tech-enabled, which really drove the success of the marketing and promotions.
Yeah. Okay. And so from that, did you sell that? As from what I've read, you sold that and then went on to start Rise yourself after that. Is that?
Yeah, we had a pretty amazing journey. So the business grew, and we were employing 1,000 young people. A few million people were attending the events, and we started working with brands, helping them to understand young people. So we were working with people like Nokia, Converse, McDonald's, and that led to us selling the business to Chime PLC and going to work at VCCP, the ad agency, for a few years. And whilst there, a friend, Mike, was running a company called Ibiza Rocks at the time. I was one of the board members at Ibiza Rocks, and Mike was looking at opening a new hotel in a town called Des Alpes. And he said, you should really come and have a look at this hotel with me. We could maybe do something there. So I went out on a weekend to Des Alpes with Mike skiing. Very long story short, Mike didn't buy the hotel, didn't open the hotel. We did end up running a festival in Des Alpes. And that was how Rise was conceived. We landed in the resort, and it was an incredible resort. It had so much to offer, and there wasn't a winter music snow sports festival that really tailored for the audience that we knew best. So we launched in 2014. It's a terrifying year, actually. We were aiming to launch by the March of 2014, with the first event happening in the December. For a combination of reasons, mainly around us getting learning our way around the French licensing system, we weren't able to launch the event until the September, but we were already completely committed. We put down deposits on accommodation, we booked talent, so we had 12 weeks to sell, to launch, market, sell the festival. So yeah, it was, looking back, a lot of fun. At the time, a little scary, but the first year was an amazing success.
Yeah, wow. How many people did you have going to that then when you launched it?
First year, 1,700 people. So we were really happy. We were in the time period that we had, we were delighted with that. And it doubled the next year.
Yeah. Okay. And then tell us what it was. It was the combination of a festival and snow sports kind of put together.
Absolutely. So we wanted to take an amazing ski holiday and build a soundtrack and an experience around it. So we partnered with people like Ibiza Rocks to host a main stage. We partnered with people like Rinse FM, Hospitality, and built this amazing production around a great resort and a really great ski holiday.
Yeah. Nice. And run us through that. How long did that last then? How long did you run that for?
I was the festival director there until 2017. The festival still runs now. So mine and Lisa's business partner, Will, runs the festival with great success. This year will be the biggest. This year will be the biggest year yet. Around 10,000 people. And it's grown in more ways than we could have imagined. But I was there for 2014, 15, 16, and 17, and it was an amazing journey for us. You know, we doubled in size for the first 3 years. We grew it from being a pretty simple festival product where you book your ticket with us and we put on the events, to being this all comprehensive travel product. So we sold everything from budget ski hostels for kind of $10 a night, right through to luxury ski chalets for 25,000 euros a night. We sold everything from paragliding to husky safaris. We sold packages, groups. We built a whole business around adventure in the resort and snowmobiling activities. So it became an amazing business to be a part of with some great people.
Yeah, sounds good. So you're not involved in that anymore? Did you sell that again, or are you still kind of part of it, invested in
We're still partners, but we cannot take. Will and the team there have taken it to all new places over the last few years and are doing an incredible job.
Nice. So where did you go from then? So when you sort of moved on from Rise, what was the next step after that?
It was Rise, really. That was the catalyst to us setting up and launching Easol. We were the more complex Rise got as a product, so selling all these different shapes of supply, packages, group tours, transport from 5 different countries, 3 different airports just in France, various different types of accommodation, that we just couldn't find an amazing platform to run our business on. And we had a whole bunch of pain points around this. So one, we ended up using 5 different systems. So we had a WordPress website, we had a system for accommodation, a system for ticketing, a system for packages, and a system for groups. That meant that we just had no way of knowing when someone landed on the website actually what our kind of cost per acquisition was, what the attribution point was. We were completely blind, really, and we did our best to stitch that together, but it was messy, and that was incredibly frustrating and started to slow us down in our growth. We at the time were also really frustrated by some of the different systems we used and the way they worked. We were growing at such a rate that we needed to hold and put deposits down on the whole town for the year ahead constantly, and those deposits were extending in millions of euros over a year in advance. But some of the different platforms we wanted to work with wanted to actually hold our revenue until closer to the event or at the time of the event. So that really started to put the brakes on growth, because we just couldn't hold enough accommodation, couldn't hold enough lift passes. We then ran into a whole bunch of problems around where we started to see accommodation sales drop off a cliff. And it was as platforms like Airbnb, Booking.com, hotels grew rapidly in popularity in 2015-16, people just started booking direct. And we realized instantly it was because our booking journey just wasn't as good. And they had to decide they were coming with us. Then really far down the process with us, they would be presented with some accommodation options. And that's just not how people wanted to book. They wanted to decide they were coming to this festival, go off and look at different places to stay, get a group together, book everything and commit. And we were losing out just because we didn't show people the options up front. And then finally, the operations and the customer support of all of this complex booking became very painful for us, because the systems that we used would often want to manage some of the customer support themselves. So we worked with different ticketing companies and things like that, and they would want to manage the customer service. And their value proposition was, look, we charge this booking fee and we'll deliver customer support. They couldn't deliver customer support because customers had questions like, hey, I'm a first-time skier. I'm worried because I've got asthma about the distance from the hotel to the first ski lift and what altitude the ski lessons will take place on. They never, no one, there's only a very few people who could answer that question, right? Yeah. So we became pretty frustrated with that, and wanted to own the customer support, and also kind of disagreed with the fees that these platforms were charging. And after looking at a lot of options, we became completely convinced that building something ourselves, despite being totally counterintuitive, was actually the best solution. And that's where we started Easol in 2017, and mainly sort of been full time and 100% focused on Easol since.
Yeah. Okay. So when that time came and you were building it, did you decide there's a business here to be made that other people will use, or was it just solving your own problem? What balance was it between just creating something that you could use for Rise versus like, all right, here's a business opportunity?
I think both. We definitely started by solving our own need, but it was a very short period of time between that conversation and us realizing just how big of an opportunity this was to help other people build their business, their business. And that was because the more people we spoke to when we were looking at solutions, like, hey, have you worked with X? What do you think of Y? Are you having this problem? How are you solving it? We were very quickly just getting the same feedback, like, yeah, this is a nightmare. And therefore, the time from let's fix this for ourselves to, wow, this might be really exciting, was very, very short.
Yeah. Okay. So take us from that stage. You obviously, that's no small task. So when you decided, like, right, we're going to create this platform, run us through those first steps. Like, how did you decide to go about it? Obviously, at some point, you got to the point where you did Y Combinator. What was kind of the small steps in the beginning to getting started to the point of being like, right, we're going to go do Y Combinator. We've got something here to show.
I think the smallest but most significant step was just committing to it, and saying, we're absolutely going to do this. And that happened actually at Rise 2016. So that was the event where we sat down with our other partners and said, we're going to go and do this, and they were incredibly supportive. Obviously, because we were fixing problems for Rise first and foremost. So the first step was definitely just committing to it. After that, it was a long and windy road for sure. And I encourage anyone to go on that windy road when starting a business. We essentially started building a first version of the platform, and we got lost along the way here. We knew that we wanted to help creators sell experiences, and we ended up launching part of a marketplace. We ended up launching part of booking tools, and that meant that we were spread really thin, and we didn't have a clear route to what we were going to bring. We knew what we wanted to build to solve Rise's problems. We were then also building this kind of distribution channel through the marketplace, and that meant that we spent probably a few months in the wrong places. But we decided to put on some of our own events on the platform as well at the same time, and this really brought us back to our kind of true north. So in 2017, we launched a event called Beyond Sahara, which it was a adventure travel music event in the Sahara Desert. So we took a few hundred people from Marrakesh to the Sahara Desert for a part adventure. And a year or two later, I forget, we launched another one, which was Beyond Archipelago in Sweden, and that was a self-guided kayak trip to an island in the Swedish archipelago, where we and that was a crazy idea. It was an island that had obviously uninhabited, no power, no facilities, and for a weekend we built the infrastructure, put on an amazing event, one that I'll remember forever, but a lot of hard work. But those events really brought us back to our true north of what we were building, and throughout that period, the more creators that we were speaking to, across all different amazing experience types, so tour operators, yoga retreat providers, surf camp owners, cooking lessons, music festivals, we just kept getting a much better understanding of that. Often a lot of these people were having the same problems, and how we might be able to solve them. And the more refined that came, the clearer it became what Easol was and should be. And we were able to get to a really good first version by early 2018.
Okay. And was that, how did your team look at that point? Was that you sat still in your living room kind of doing it yourself? Had you built a team out of people to support you? How would that develop?
In 2017, there was myself, Lisa, our first engineer, and our first engineers, and then we were quickly joined by the founding team, Josh, Jeff, and Kyle, who are all still here today and a huge part of Easol's success.
Okay, nice. So you got it to a point where you thought, right, we've got something here. What prompted that? Right, we're going to go to Y Combinator now. There's a thing. How did that come about? And why as well?
We knew. I think we knew that the opportunity was enormous. We'd spoke to so many people across so many different verticals that we were getting more and more excited about how big this business might be, but also how big this movement was. You know, we were just meeting incredible people day after day who were incredibly talented. You know, MBAs, ex-bankers, coming straight out of enormous consultancy roles, and just saying, you know what, I thought I wanted to do that when I was at university, but I'm now going to build an experience business because I'm really passionate about this, and I want this. This is what I want in my life. So we were getting more and more excited about what was like the idea for what Easol could be, but also this movement that was happening that was that we were a part of. And we knew that in order to do that, we were going to need to move incredibly fast, and we were going to need support. We definitely initially found it hard to break into the technology world. We thought that because we built successful businesses, we'd exited, we'd been on the board of a company that's a PLC, and that we'd worked with these amazing brands that people would recognize that. We definitely found that that wasn't the case, and that raising investment, people were like, well, where did you go to university? And have you been head of product at any of these 5 companies that exist in Europe right now? and there's a lot of people who find different ways to navigate that, and there's lots of ways to navigate that. And I'm not even sure if that's the case now, but at the time we definitely felt it was new for us. And obviously Y Combinator is the gold standard in early stage accelerators. So mainly to talk about it, and we decided to apply. We applied late, so we realized that the deadline for the batch was up, for applications was up. We filled in the application, and what was really scary is we were really working on the application, and there's a lot of information online about how to hone your application. But whilst we were applying, we had no idea if they would just say, "That's it, you can't submit it." So we wanted to really take our time on it, but equally we knew that at any moment it might close. So we did the best job we could in the time that we felt we had on the application. We recorded the video in our apartment at about 2:00 in the morning, and we submitted it that night. And then from there, we heard from them a few weeks later that they would like a video chat, which was a brilliant call in that we prepared for it quite. We spent a day preparing for the call. The Y Combinator partner came on, asked one clarifying question about our application, and said, "Brilliant, thanks very much."
Love it.
We were like, well, "Did that go well?"
Nice. Hey, better to be prepared than
absolutely wouldn't change it.
So, and then when you got into it, for people who aren't aware of that process and what goes into it, give us a quick overview of kind of when you're in and you're accepted, kind of how does that play out?
Well, it's an amazing process. At the time they flew you over to Silicon Valley for an in-person interview. For anyone who doesn't know, the interview's quite famous in that it can be tough. It's 10 minutes long. And there's three partners in the room from Y Combinator, and they throw questions at you thick and fast. And even though that sounds scary, it's an amazing process to go through, because it forces you to be very clear about your idea. It forces you to be very concise about your idea. And actually, even if you're not planning to apply, I encourage anyone to complete their application form that's running a business, and it's a great way of getting out, like, this is genuinely what we're trying to do in a really first stage business plan. So we were accepted in the early part of May, and we moved out to Silicon Valley about 2 weeks later. So we flew back home, packed up our bags, and flew back out. And we lived there for 6 months in Palo Alto, which is right in the heart of Silicon Valley, so 45 minutes drive from San Francisco. And the program was phenomenal, game changing for us. We were put around an incredible team of partners. We had dinner every Tuesday where there was amazing guest speakers brought in, from the founder of Coinbase to the founders of Airbnb, which were incredibly exciting, but also inspiring. And then we worked with our group partners and our other batchmates to really hone our offer, and spent that entire summer completely heads down, no distraction. We just worked on the business. We did less exercise than we should, and that was that. And that was that summer. And that, we spent the whole summer really speaking to customers and hearing more about their problems, and throwing in front of them what our proposed solutions were, and just refining what we were building at an incredibly fast rate.
Nice. And so you didn't get time to get out to Yosemite and go climbing and things?
I didn't even see the Golden Gate Bridge in 6 months. Not once. So every time I went into San Francisco for a meeting, it was too foggy. So I never even saw the Golden Gate Bridge. We spent the entire summer in a double garage in the house that we rented with the team. But it was one of the best summers of my life, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Hey, so you come out of that. Obviously, I guess something that comes with that is a huge amount of kind of affirmation and positive reinforcement that you're on to a good thing. And you mentioned all the benefits that come in addition to kind of the funding that comes out of that. You've gone on to subsequently announced a couple of weeks ago, I think, about getting funding from Notion Capital and having that support. Tell us a bit more about kind of the investment side of things. Like, how have you gone about that? Who do you think it's good for? Is it something you'd recommend to everyone, or do you think there's specific use cases where it works and it doesn't work? How's, kind of what experiences have you gained from that?
Sure. So I think the most important things I've learned about that are that what we're building is really special. And therefore, being a part of that journey is incredible opportunity for any investors out there. And I think repositioning that in my own mind was really important. I think in the early part of your fundraising journey, it's easy to think that all of the power sits with the investors, and it really doesn't. If you're building something that's really important in the world, it's mutual. You're looking for great partners, and they're looking for great companies, and finding that is what counts. I think when we're looking for a partner, we're looking for people who really share the long-term vision for the business, and that we can see ourselves working with for the next decade. Notion for us, we're a home run. We weren't taking any investment pre-COVID and pre the pandemic. The business was growing 50% month over month, and the pandemic hit, and we went from profitable to zero revenue in less than 14 days. So, and I'm sure that's the case for many people. For many people, that's definitely not a unique story. But our experience of that was okay. Well, what are our options here? We felt very strongly that we did not want to pivot the business, and we didn't want to change the direction that the business was going in. We knew that the other side of this pandemic, whilst some things may change, did people still want to go and travel? Yes. Did people still want to have new experiences? And if anything, was the hunger for those experiences going to be elevated to an all-time high? And we felt really strongly about that. So we made the decision not to change direction, but to use the time to build a better business and to fix some of the things that we knew we needed to invest in. So at that point, we knew we decided to raise investment. And some people said, "Man, you're crazy! Like, no one's going to invest right now. No one's going to invest right now. Like, you want to be focusing your time on making sure that you guys come out of this." And we of course did that, but we felt very confident that we had proven how big of an opportunity this business could be, that we had an amazing team, and that we should open a round. So we opened the round, and for sure there were some people that loved the business but were terrified of travel and when would the pandemic end, and just couldn't get themselves comfortable. And then there were a lot of others who who agreed with our point, and those that agreed with us, we knew that those guys were going to be great partners long term, that were ready to get in the trenches because of the time they were investing in. And Notion, Chris, Stephen, Cam, and the team there really showed that, and they've been amazing partners for us since.
Yeah, fantastic. I read the kind of announcement blog post article that Chris Topman from Notion wrote, and he said, kind of when he was covering the why did I invest, he said, I've thought about this a lot, and I think it stems from the founders and the deep insight they have about the people and the market they serve, as well as the years that they've got on the clock in building experiences themselves and now delivering the tooling for an entire passion-driven sector in experience commerce. It's all about the mission they're on. Tell us a bit about the mission that you're on. We've kind of obviously touched upon it in terms of what you want Easol to be, but give us a bit more of a précis of what that is.
Sure thing. So, we want to give experience creators their own platform, which puts all of the control and power in their hand. Right now, experience creators are, we see it as being the best job in the world. You get to create an experience based on what you're passionate about, share it with the world, and have a really big impact on a lot of people's lives. So we want to power those people, and right now they're constrained. They are either utilizing third-party marketplaces and selling through third parties, and that means that they're essentially renting their customers, and at any point those people can just say, no, we're refunding your customers, you don't have any income, or no, we're changing our terms and this is our new deal. They're using the wrong tools, so they're using things like WordPress or Squarespace, which are brilliant platforms, but they're built fundamentally for selling things. They're built for selling t-shirts, shirts, cups, not for selling experiences which require days, nights, hours, payment plans, guests, arrival details. They don't understand that. And then often they're having to join all these different tools together to solve that problem. So they're relying on two or three different services, which is expensive, and then means that they don't deliver an amazing customer journey, which means that their customers book elsewhere because the customer doesn't care. They want to just spend. They're spending $1,000 online. They want the best experience they can get. They want the best experience online they can get for that. So we want to give experience creators a platform that gives them total control and gives them the same type of technology that billion-dollar businesses are running on. So we want to give the independent business the same capabilities as some of the largest businesses in the world. And we're really excited about that.
Yeah, nice. In that same interview, I think Chris quoted you talking about the experience economy boom. Tell us what you mean by that and why you think that's a thing.
What I mean by that is, I think the way that we travel has changed. The way that we travel has changed. We used to, first of all, we're the first generation, and this is proven by the last year, right? Like we're the first generation where travel is not any longer a luxury; it's an entitlement. It's like, it's not, are you going on holiday this year, or are you going to A, B, or C this year? It's, what are you going to this year? Like, we expect to go and we expect to explore the world. But that's changed from ticking off destinations to, I've been to South America, I've been to North America, I've been A, B, and C, to, have you been to X experience? And we see that as experience first travel. So where the primary decision making factor in the trip is the experience, and that's what's really fueling this huge growth in the experience economy. This desire for new experiences, and where experience is the primary decision making factor. I want to go on a yoga retreat. I want to feel refreshed and rejuvenated after that retreat. Where that is a secondary decision. But on the other side of that, we've got this generation. So, as consumers, we've got this thirst for new experiences. We are the first generation to be able to travel pretty much at will, and have great expectations around that. And then on the other side, we're a generation which has grown up with people launching Kickstarter campaigns, people launching pop-up shops, launching a Shopify store. So we've got this huge amount, we've got this huge culture of entrepreneurialism. We've grown up literally with shows like The Apprentice and Dragon's Den and Shark Tank in the US. So we've got this huge culture of entrepreneurialism. So meeting the demand is this whole new wave of entrepreneurs. And I mentioned some of these people earlier, but just amazing people with incredible backgrounds who are incredibly capable, but just decide they want to live a different life. And that doesn't mean that they want to run a lifestyle business. Some of their businesses grow to be very, very large, but it's very important to them that they build a life full of purpose and passion. And they do that by building a business and sharing their passions with others. We've got amazing examples of it on the platform, and every time we meet a new creator, I love hearing about their stories. But people like one of the first creators on the platform, Theo, who's now a really good friend of mine, but also the businesses. And Theo runs a company called Love Trails. Theo used to run conferences, so he used to run green energy conferences, but was an incredibly passionate trail runner, and decided to launch a trail running and music festival, Love Trails, in Wales. It's now grown to a full-time team of 4, I believe, at the last count. They are running a festival in Wales, which is now thousands of people attending every year. They run a series of summer camps up and down the UK. They have a new European destination launching. They run an event in the Faroe Islands with a global attendance. They are the pioneers and founders of a movement called Global Trail Running Day, where they introduce people to trail running globally. They run a online course for trail runners and community, and it's just an amazing business built on this passion and purpose. And watching that go from Theo and Rich running this business, this small festival in Wales, to what it's become today, incredibly privileged to be a little part of that journey. And that's why we believe that's why we believe so strongly that it's a thing.
Yeah, nice. I've spoken to Nick Kershaw from Impact Marathon as well for the podcast, and obviously he's kind of been with Easol as well, and again, like you say, doing amazing things. And it's when you speak to people like that, the last thing they want to be doing is faffing around with tech, and they've got the ideas and they want to implement the things. And
Nick's great.
Do the thing.
Nick's amazing. What Impact Marathon are doing, I'm hoping to do my first this year. But that's exactly it, and that's how we think about what problem we're solving is how do we remove all of and automate all of the low value tasks. People who come to Easol, even some very large businesses, often spend time updating their website, making a bit of artwork to say that there's a discount on a certain trip or experience, tens of hours a week chasing people to pay a balance or provide information on diary requirements. And with Easol, we automate all of that. And my belief is that the creators should be spending time either marketing and selling the experience, or building new amazing experiences and operating them. And that's like the really high value tasks that only they can do. They can, it's only them who can create these amazing experiences, and it's only them and their teams that can go out there and drive marketing. But so much of their time was being lost previously to day-to-day admin and tasks that they could spend 30 hours a week doing that, feel like they've worked really hard that week, but none of that's really contributed to whilst very important, it's not contributed to the growth.
Yeah, fantastic. It's clear that you have grown a variety of businesses kind of through your career. Tell I'd like to dig into the marketing side of things a little bit more, and to kind of some of the things you've seen the most success from, and to start with kind of looking at branding. So I know like Lisa's kind of expertise is in that area. Do you have any kind of recommendations, suggestions for building a strong brand from the get-go, or what you believe goes into building a strong brand?
Well, I'm really fortunate in that Lisa, my co-founder, is a genius here, and is the best I know. So I couldn't be more fortunate in terms of who I work with on that, and I've learned a hell of a lot from Lisa about this over the years. I think for me, it's about the key is about knowing. I think for me, and certainly from my experience, our brand is all, our values are about being creator first. Every decision we make is for the people on the platform, and we put them first in every instance, and that's incredibly important. That's incredibly important to us. And in most meetings that we have about product, about where we're taking the business, that's something which we discuss, and that very much comes because that's our overarching, one of our top values. That's very much then brought to life in our brand. It's not, we like to see ourselves as a guide, and we like to see ourselves as a support. That's why we're called Easol, the platform in which a creator can put their work. So that value about us being the guide and the support has really came to life in our brand, and how we tell our story, and how we talk about what we do. So yeah, I think for me it's about really tying it back to our purpose, being very authentic about that, knowing as much about who we are as who we're not, and not being ashamed of saying what we're not.
And it's interesting because there are a lot of people who, when you talk about brand, would say, "Oh, yeah, my logo's like this," or "These are my colours," or something like that. But you haven't mentioned any of those things there. It's values and the things that are at the heart of it, and then I guess, as you said, subsequently other things come off the back of that.
100%. Our brand is how when a creator comes to us and says, "Hey, I've got a big problem," it's how we respond. It's when a creator comes to us and says, "Hey, the platform does A, B, and C, but I need it to do X, Y, and Z." It's how we deal with that, and how we respond. And our response is that we're a great partner, that we roll up our sleeves and we get in to help them, because that is what the platform and what the business is here and what the business is here to do, for sure.
And do you have any advice on how to come up with those values? I guess in a lot of instances it might just be like they feel you just know what they are. Did you go through a process to kind of think, right, let's sit down and have a whiteboard and kind of go through various things to work out like what are our values? Or did it just feel like, right, we've had a certain amount of years where we've developed this business and we can look back and we can say we've realized that these various things are important to us?
I think we always knew, we always held those beliefs, and we always behaved in that way, which ultimately drove that value specifically. But I think what really helped us hone it is when you get it wrong. So when we've gone wrong and we've said like, "Whoa, we've really landed badly here. Why? What have we done? What have we done wrong?" And by analyzing it when something we've done with good intentions always has landed badly, that allowed us to refine our values much faster than a whiteboard session or a forced session. But actually really getting into our mistakes has really helped us to arrive at that, for sure.
Do you have an example of a time like that?
Oh, of mistakes.
Yeah.
I think we A good example would be the marketplace, actually, right? So we try to run a marketplace alongside building the booking tools. Now, that in theory sounds like a great idea, but what it did is, we're working with all these amazing creators. Let's put all of their supply and all of their amazing trips in one place together and let them sell more. It sounds really well intended. The reality of that is that as soon as we become the marketplace, we then have a responsibility directly to the end customer, and therefore the booker becomes our customer, and we have a relationship with them. Now, that puts us at complete odds to perhaps the creator's own to our duty to the creator, right? So, there was a lot of, at the start of the pandemic, Airbnb got this wrong, and Airbnb refunded in full everybody who booked on the platform because their responsibility was to their customers, right? But of course, that left thousands of hosts without income at a time when they needed income, when they needed income most. So the marketplace was a great example. We found ourselves, trying to do something with great intentions, but ultimately, because it changed our relationship and our dynamic with the people on our platform, it put us at odds against being creator first. And we very well might bring the idea of a marketplace back, but when we do, it would be with creators running it, and it would be their marketplace, certainly not Easol's.
Yeah, makes sense. On the, I guess, the more creative side of the brand, you obviously went through a rebrand from being Fixers initially to Easol.
Yeah.
What prompted that? Why did you decide to do that? And then there's obviously like the name part of it, and then I guess delving into the like look and feel of the brand and that kind of thing. Yeah, what was the motivation behind doing that? And again, like, were there particular steps that you went through to make sure you did it right? That if someone's listening and thinking, I fancy a rebrand, that you could help them.
I think my advice there would be to be very, very deliberate with when you choose to do it. We were previously called Fixers, and we came up with the name before we'd really established what we were building, and very early in the journey. And we knew probably for the last 2 years that it wasn't the right name and that it wasn't the right visual identity. But it was not the right time for us to invest in that area and for us to distract ourselves with rebranding. It would have been at the cost of servicing our creators in the way that we wanted to, in the way that we expected to. So we put it off. When the pandemic hit, and in March we said, right, like, now is the ideal time for us to rebrand. We can afford to make the investment right now in time. So firstly, I'd say be very deliberate about when you do it, and know that it's the right time for the business. Secondly, and this is Lisa's thought process, which I very much believe in, is that we want our platform to feel as much like a piece of artwork as a piece of software. People use our software all day, every day to run their business, but their business is also part of their life, and therefore it should be a place which is inspiring, and it should be a place which you really enjoy signing into every day. And that's really what we took into the branding process. We wanted to build a brand that was inspiring, that was a fun brand to interact with, that genuinely told our creators stories, because we've worked with so many amazing businesses and people that we wanted to represent them and to help tell the story.
Yeah, I think that going back to what you were saying earlier about the starting the journey, like the long and winding road, but the advice that you gave was just start on along that road.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think a lot of the big obstacle that people often have and kind of mess around with for a long time is, what should it be called, or what should the colours be, or what should the logo be? And
I have a strong belief, and I think you're 100% right, Tom, is once you start, amazing things happen. And if you never start, you're guaranteed nothing will ever happen. So once you start, and you put something out into the world and start talking to people about it, the places that will take you can be completely unexpected. And maybe twice a year, something incredibly lucky happens to you. And, for sure, lots of decisions up until that point will create that luck. But just by starting, you're guaranteed to start an amazing journey. And if you don't, you won't.
Yeah, absolutely. And to re-emphasize, that's there is no reason why further down the line you can't then put more effort and time and things into the name has come to me now and we want to change it, or suddenly I know what my brand is and I've got to hone it. It's like,
it's never too late.
You can easily do. Yeah, you can change it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things we talk about a lot with our team and internally today as well, is it's never too late. It's like, hey, this is wrong. Okay, let's change it. We don't have to live with anything. We don't have to live with anything. It's never too late.
Yeah. It's I imagine this is something you do, and I guess it's been drilled in for you from some of your experiences from Silicon Valley and things like that. But that kind of iterative process of not feeling like there's you've got to have a build up and then do a big massive thing. It's like you just keep chipping away and making improvements and kind of tweaking things that way.
Definitely. And again, being really deliberate. If you know that, asking, is this, if I'm wrong, how easy is it to reverse? And knowing the answer to that. And I think that's advice which I read or was given at some point. And actually, when I run that test, I quickly find out that most of the time the answer is not very hard. Very few things are permanent.
Yeah. That's an interesting point you raised there. So just as a quick kind of tangent on that, is there anything else? Is there any other kind of key lessons you would say you've learned? You've obviously spent time with some very, very clever, very successful people from, whether it's over being at YC or Notion or the other journeys that you've been on. Are there any kind of sort of headline learnings as well like that you live by, that you've taken away?
I think the things which are really important to me, really important to me, are really knowing what's important at the time, at the time, and getting comfortable with ignoring some problems in the business. So when we're building a really big product and we're servicing and working with a lot of people, that can put us in a position where there's like many challenges at any one time, and being able to really focus on like what the most important challenge is has certainly been one of our biggest learnings. And early we used to spread ourselves very, 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 very thin, and communicating really well with both our team but also our creators and people on the platform. Like we're aware that maybe this feature should do A, B, and C, but right now we're putting our time here because we think that's more important to you. Do you agree? And making people part of that conversation has been critical to our success to date. Owning our mistakes is incredibly important. So internally, we have a mistake log, and we celebrate them. So everyone in the company has a hell of a lot of responsibility, and with that comes, sometimes things don't go to plan. So we have an internal mistake log, which we post and we celebrate them, and then we talk about them and make sure that they don't happen. They don't happen again, and we work out what we can do to make sure that that's the case. And that's been an incredible process that we love. I think the the other thing which I think is really important is to be really transparent about how you're thinking and the principles which are guiding your decisions. So at every step, we try really hard in the company never to say, hey, this is the decision. We try to say, hey, this is the decision, and this is how we got to it, and this is what I'm thinking about at the moment. Because we're making so many decisions at such a fast pace, that means if we change, it's very easy to explain, like, hey, our thinking, this has changed, and our thinking therefore has changed, and this is why we're now going in a slightly different direction. I could probably talk about this all day, though.
Yeah, no, hey, it's amazing. Listen, I could listen to it. There's great stuff in there. The mistake log is I've scribbled that down to think, oh yeah, I like the sound of that. So can you just give us just a bit more detail on that, and so what is the structure for that? Where does it get written down? How do you celebrate it? How do you come together and talk through those things? So
we're obviously all now remote, so we use Slack. And we have a bot on Slack. So if you've made a mistake or feel the company has made a mistake, we jump into the channel, and the channel very jokingly is called "Fucked It," and it's very tongue in cheek. But the content's serious, and it's what's happened, what's happened, how did it happen. How do we suggest we prevented it? How do we suggest we prevent it again? And who needs to be part of the debrief or conversation on this? That's posted publicly to the entire team, and that's logged separately in a rolling document. We then pick it up in a retro, and we celebrate it because no one ever gets in trouble, right? It's never, it's nobody ever gets wrong for posting in there. So it's a safe space for us to say, hey, like, this has happened, and I think we could have done better. And that allows us to improve at an amazing rate.
Yeah. Love that. So just to swing it back round to the kind of marketing side of things again, obviously one of the things you've done a lot of, and I guess it's been the thing that you've done, it's been the product as well, in like events of some shape or form. But I guess that also can kind of be a marketing tool as well. So have you got kind of that combination of those two things? Have you got any recommendations for how to use events in that way, or how to kind of market, how you've gone about marketing the event successfully? What things have you done to kind of get bums on seats and things like that when you've done them?
My kind of philosophy on marketing, and the question which I put to anyone when they've got an experience to sell, a trip to sell, a hotel to fill, is what have you genuinely done today that's going to make a sale? And that question cuts through a lot, because, and we use this internally for different projects as well, but it's very easy to get tied up with jobs which don't have the impact that you are optimizing for. So it's like, hey, what have you done today that's going to make a sale? I've posted on Instagram. Cool. Do you think that's going to sell anything? Oh, actually, no, we've never sold anything through Instagram. Okay, then what have we done today that's going to make a sale? Because Instagram's not working. So I think really getting for me, my experience has been getting our team, to understand, like, is the action I'm taking achieving the desired? Is the action I'm taking achieving the desired outcome, or is it just something else that we do as part of a wider plan? And that's fine, and it's got its place. But if sales are the objective, is the actions I'm taking having the desired outcome, and do I expect that it will continue to deliver? Is a really important thing that we talk about. And what that often leads to is a more intentional strategy around sales. And I'm a huge fan of finding free marketing tactics that you can scale up. So great example would be if you are selling a retreat for entrepreneurs, it's really easy to set up the Facebook ads and to maybe do some paid for advertising on Google, and those are great things to do. But what else can you do? And I love these kind of brain like ideation meetings where you can say, right, I'm going to go to every co-working space in London, of which there are tens, and I'm going to offer them their community 10% off. And I can email directly the community manager. I can ask them directly to invite me to their Slack channel. I can then share this offer. Or I can go in and give a talk and for 15 minutes at one of their coffee mornings about what our retreat is and why it's really important for entrepreneurs. And I'm a big fan of that type of grassroots marketing. And I think once you start layering in that type of marketing with paid performance, with more top line, the results you get can be incredible, but you can also build something that's very repeatable, very predictable.
Yeah, there's the thought and time of going into thinking about who your audience is and then where they're hanging out is such an important one that I think people overlook. They sort of dive into the channel, and it's a bit like you're saying, right? When people lead their travels with experience or with destination, I would say it's kind of a similar thing with marketing, where people often dive into thinking, should I do Facebook advertising, or should I do PPC, or should I do SEO, or things like that? And it's really, that's not the question. The question is, who's your audience and where are they? And go there. That's
absolutely. And how many of them do you need? What is the, maybe the retreat, maybe you're running a retreat and it's for 30 people. Write down the list of 30 people who should genuinely be attending this retreat. And then ask them who they know who should be coming, and I think taking these kind of really grassroots approaches, even for some of the biggest businesses, can be incredibly successful. And it forces you to be out there having amazing conversations. And once you start that, where that goes can be anyone's guess.
Yeah, love it. You've mentioned the team a few times and some really interesting little nuggets. So I'd love to dive into that a little bit more with you. Can you give us a bit of a view of like what the team looks like now? How many people are in there? What kind of structure do you have? How have you grown that out?
Sure thing. So we are a small and formidable team. So we're around 15 people full time now today. We are predominantly an engineering first company. So the majority of the team is in product and engineering, where we're building a platform. We hire very much based on potential of people. So whilst experience is incredibly important, a pedigree or training is incredibly important. We also are big believers in raw potential, and the rate that our business is growing at, we need people who can join at a certain point, but then grow as fast as the company, and that's incredibly rare. So potential is one of our most important important assets, and that we look for.
How do you go about identifying that in the hiring process?
So we built a really interesting process for hiring. Our hiring process is heavy. We spend a lot of time with people when they're looking to join the company, and that's very deliberate. We know that we are going to be building this company for a very long time. We expect people and hope that people want to join and stay for a very long time. And with that means we're going to spend a hell of a lot of time together, and we're going to spend good times, bad times, times in the trenches. So we want to make sure that it's the right place for them, and that we're set up for success. So for every role, we build a list of a list of criteria. That's normally like 15 to 25 points, and then over a three or four stage process, we score against the criteria. And when people are successful and join the business and agree it's a good fit, we share how they scored. We think that's a really important part of the process. So we share the scores, so that they know where we think they were incredibly strong and where we think they might be a risk, but also where why we hired them, where we felt they were going to be really, where we think they were going to be really impactful, and that's been incredibly successful for us.
Yeah, nice. And are there any particular qualities that you're looking for in that process? Is there anything that you see as like you say, in that kind of identifying potential? What bits do you pick out where you think, yeah, that's because it's obviously such a hard thing. There's a reason the recruitment business is industry is such a big one. Like, it's incredibly hard to pick those things out. Yeah, are there any nuggets of kind of how you draw on that?
I think what's really important for us is we want what we're doing is an amazing opportunity, and it deserves to have the best people around it to support the creators around the world who are using the platform and will go on to use the platform. But what we're doing is it requires a mindset of, okay, that shouldn't be possible with the resource we have today. How are we gonna do it? So this really unique problem solving attitude of, wow, I'm a little bit afraid of this, and it shouldn't be possible, but we're gonna figure that out. And that's probably one of the key values we're looking at for anyone, whether or not that be support. Because, someone's got a problem. Okay, I don't know how to do that, but I'll go and learn and I will find out. So like this kind of real problem solving attitude. And then we talk about people being like Navy SEALs, which is this kind of T-shaped person, which for us, we like people who've got a deep specialization in their subject matter, but can equally, like a Navy SEAL, mix it up in different departments when they need to. So, hey, like we're overwhelmed in A today. Can you jump in and can you help? And we find that creates a really magic environment where you end up with solutions you didn't expect to. So having this kind of unique problem solving, this Navy SEAL mindset of being able to jump into different areas of the business and feel comfortable there. And then the final point, I think, is probably that we admire people who are learning machines, and who take a pride in learning anything new, and that's something which both me and Lisa really pride ourselves on and thrive with. But we think that's a really important part of our business. And anyone who joins, they run an experience on the platform, which has been an incredible process for us. So whether or not you are an engineer or a marketer, part of our experience experts team who work to onboard new creators, the first 2 weeks are spent setting up a business, putting it on sale on the platform, marketing it, both to us but also externally, selling it, running the P&L, and then actually operating the experience. And those are incredibly fun to get to know new team members, but are also an incredible opportunity for the team.
Yeah, like the learning side of things, is a massive kind of value for us as well. And like you say, I think when you are that kind of smaller, compact team, you need people to drive their own development and things, don't you? To get the amazing things done that you want to do, as without needing to micromanage all the different.
100%, and they push the company.
Yeah,
they make us better.
Absolutely. With this kind of tying into leadership, then you've obviously led the business into very, very exciting places. Have you got any sort of tips and tricks, advice on, kind of how you've gone about that? Anything that you've got, any kind of processes you have in place that help you as a leader kind of push the business forward?
I think I'm always very I'm conscious about this, because I'm conscious about taking other people's advice and trying to and saying, well, it worked for them, it'll work for me, because I think what's been successful for us to date has been being really true to who we are, and being authentic, both externally and internally. And I think often that comes with, I think the key thing there that's been successful for us is often that comes with some vulnerability, and saying to the team, like, hey, we're trying, I don't think this is going well, and it's me, right? Like, I'm the one who leads on this. What do you think would work better? What do you think would work better here? So I think, in answer to your question, I think you've got to be authentic to yourself, and I think involving the team in the problems and being comfortable with saying when you think something that you're doing could be better is one of the key things that's been really is one of the key things that's been really successful for us. Just because my job title is CEO doesn't mean that everything that lands on my plate I've seen before and understand how to do. Quite the opposite, in fact. So if I was to get it all right all the time, I'm never going to get it all right all the time. So being able to have that conversation and ask for help and say, I'm not sure how to deal with this is number one. Being really transparent. So, I think in other businesses, things like the board meeting might be a big secret. And it's kind of like, we've got the board meeting, and in our business, the team all contribute to the board deck, and post board meeting I give everyone a run through of, hey, this is the board deck and this is what was discussed. What do you all feel about it? So being like very transparent has led to us delivering great results, but also making the whole team part of the challenges. And I think the other area where I feel we've been successful, it is really learning to manage on outcome, not on tasks. So if you hire amazing people and you and then you give them jobs to do, so like, hey, go and run Facebook ads for acquisition. Hey, go and build this feature. They will do it. But if you say to them, hey, we want to tell the world about us and let amazing businesses know that we're here to help them, or hey, we want to launch a new payment plan. We want to launch payment plans. The reason we think we want to launch payment plans is customers want to be able to pay off large balances over a period of time. Can you go and figure out the best way to do it? The results we get are 10x better. We deliver it faster, and the team enjoy it, more. So I think learning to manage on outcome and not on a task has been a big part of our success.
Yeah. Do you have any kind of habits or approaches for going about the bigger thinking for the business? Yeah. How do you, if you kind of because obviously getting out of the weeds is an important thing to do to see the bigger picture. Is there anything you do to kind of actively help yourself do that?
I think being it's a great question. I think I operate best with when I have lots of data and lots of reference points. And when I say data, I don't mean spreadsheets and numbers. I actually mean anecdotal a lot of the time. So, hey, X this business just told me this, or we're seeing this, and isn't it really interesting? So I like to spend a lot of time having conversations which other people might think are not valuable. And I think, to new members of our team, sometimes they're like, why did Ben just spend 15 minutes at the start of that meeting talking about something that was totally not on the agenda? And even though we were here to talk about this really specific thing, he just kept pulling on that thread and asking more questions. So I think being deliberate about just gathering all of that anecdotal information from the team, like what are engineering seeing, what are the product team seeing, what are our experienced experts, what's happening on onboarding, every creator I speak to. So I try to make a very conscious effort to do that, and to explain that's why I'm doing it. And then what I find is just sitting on those insights, coming up with a hypothesis, and then validating it against real data or real support by going out and testing it with people on the platform, for instance, or people who aren't on the platform, is how I've made the biggest leaps in the business. But really immersing myself in every team and every department, and having a genuine interest in everything that's going on and everyone that we come into contact with as a business. And if I then need to go out and learn something to understand all of these insights, making a really deliberate action to do that. So, I have a list at any one time of things that I just don't know enough about, and I need to spend a Saturday or a Sunday or an evening just getting really deep on a subject. Deep for me, not becoming a subject matter, but deep enough that I can apply what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Okay. As someone who is part of a husband and wife founder partnership, I can, I'd love to just ask if you've got any tips on how to make that work and get the right balance with it. And I guess in a slightly more serious way, just, do you have, whether it's husband or wife or not, kind of any recommendations for working with a partner, for people who have co-founders and things like that you found to be successful?
No, for sure. I think firstly, being mainly sort of met working together and have worked together for the majority of our careers. So that's a really unique. It's a really unique scenario and a really unique advantage. We know each other's. We know each other's strengths and weaknesses. We also are able to say pretty much anything to the other person because it comes from. Because we have so much trust in each other, that if one of us says something like, hey, maybe you could have done this better, or hey, when you did Y, do you know that probably didn't land as you expected? It's an easy conversation, and that's an incredible foundation to build from. So I think for me, I would encourage anyone with a new co-founder to spend as much time with them on the business as they are out of the business. Find something in common outside of work, and spend time doing it together, walking, the gym, whatever it might be, but have something which, where you can just hang out and really build a relationship outside of work as well. I think that's really, really, really important. We love working together. It means we're totally aligned on both life and work. And we flip out of different modes. Sometimes one might need more support than the other, and sometimes one of us needs to pick up more at home. But that kind of happens pretty organically and pretty naturally. So I'd recommend it. I'm sure it's not for everyone, and we've definitely had to come up with some kind of like, hey, I'm off now. Like, whoa, I'm off. I'm off tonight, and we've definitely had to learn how to do that. But it's amazing to be sharing this together for sure. For other co-founders, I think the biggest bit of advice I've got and I was given this by Lisa's dad, actually, who's George, who's an amazing guy, who's a business coach. So we're very fortunate to have him on the team. But George said to us, you've got to get the fish on the table, and that means when there's a problem, you can't leave the fish on the floor. You've got to like put it on the table and talk about it. And if you can get into a really good habit of doing that, things are much easier to deal with. And we were guilty in our team in the early days, and even between each other, of not confronting challenges early enough, and they would bubble up and become either more emotional, or they would become more serious, or the consequences would become bigger. And just getting really good at saying like, hey, we need to talk about this, and I feel like this about something that's happening, has been obvious, but hugely impactful on our company. And it's something which I love, because we hear our team saying it now, like, hey, I need to have a conversation. We need to get the fish on the table about this. And you're like, okay, great.
Love it. Yeah, I like the phrase. I think having it as a catchphrase kind of in that way makes it easier. So it is immediately it makes it a bit lighter, doesn't it, to go and talk about if you discuss it in that way. Listen, I could talk to you for hours, Ben. I think I've got to kind of start bringing it into a close. But last couple of questions. First one of those, if you were speaking to someone who was thinking about starting a travel business in some shape or form, whether it's an experience creator, a tour operator, a hotelier, whoever it might be, what would kind of be the piece of advice that you would give to that person?
I think start. So getting it on sale as fast as possible. Because as soon as you're out there and it's on sale, you're learning and you're hearing what people think. And before that moment, people will say, "Yeah, I love the idea of this experience," or "Yeah, that seems like a fair price." But you just don't know until it's out there, and you're really trying to sell it and getting real feedback. So start, get it up, and put it on sale. Accept that everything won't be finalized. Accept that everything won't be perfect. But yeah, I would definitely say start. I would then say to find people and put as many people who are maybe a step or two in their journey further ahead of you. And I see a lot of people make a mistake here where they get advice from people who are 10 years ahead of them. And that advice is really useful, but often they've forgotten what it was like in the first stages. And actually speaking to someone who's just maybe a year ago launched a similar business, and just be really upfront and ask for help. I think one of the amazing things about the world we live in now is that we're all incredibly connected. Over the last year, we've proven that people can chat like this from anywhere in the world. And 9 times out of 10, if you ask someone like, "Hey, I'm doing this, I'd love, would you help?" Most people have been given help from someone before, on their way, and are more than happy to pass that, to pass on the benefit of that. So yeah, just start, accept it won't be perfect, and then get as much advice from really relevant people who are a little bit ahead of where you are, and just be upfront and ask for help, because people will give it.
Yeah, really like that. So yeah, tell us about the future plans for the business. And obviously, it sounds like you're in a fantastic place, and kind of the growth curve is starting to kick off. When I spoke to Lisa, she mentioned you were thinking about launching a foundation as well alongside it. So give us a little bit of information, kind of just what's kind of coming up in the next 12 months or so.
Sure. So no, right now we're 100% focused on building out the tools, feedback from creators, and giving creators what they need to come out of what's been a really tough year in the strongest possible position. We're working with some amazing businesses, and we just want to keep improving the platform to help support their growth. Because whilst we're growing, that's all fueled by amazing businesses that are growing just as fast. So making sure that we deliver on what our proposition is priority one. The foundation is something which me and Liz are really excited about, and the team are incredibly excited and passionate about. I think it's interesting where it's really early for us to start a foundation. And, you know, I've, again, huge shout out to Notion on this. You know, I think a lot of companies could go to their lead investor and board at our stage with the proposal of a foundation and get, you know, slammed out the room for it. We were met with kind of open arms and like, let's do this. This is 100% the right thing to do. But the reason we're launching the foundation now is, and I'll come on and tell you a little bit about it, but is we believe by starting early, like I just said, we are following our own advice, and that by starting early, we'll find out where we can have the most positive impact in the world, but we'll grow it at the same rate as the business. And if we start now, where might it be in 5 years' time? That's really exciting. So the foundation's got two core goals in the first instance. The first is to match those who might not be able to go on experiences or travel with amazing experiences free of charge. We're incredibly fortunate. I grew up going on these crazy adventures. Lisa grew up going on incredible family holidays, and we recognize that experiences shape who we are, how we see the world, and also how the opportunities that we might be presented to us often come from the experiences that we've had. And there are a lot of people in the world who just aren't as fortunate as we are. And, you know, going on an experience would be a really premium, unobtainable for them. So how do we match our amazing creators' experiences with those who perhaps wouldn't have the opportunity otherwise? So we're launching Objective One this year, with the goal of sending 50 people on experiences that they otherwise wouldn't have. And then Objective Two is how do we help others create their own experience business? And that's a longer term objective, but we want to launch a accelerator of our own, which would have a global reach to help entrepreneurs globally launch experience businesses where they might not have previously had the resource, the funding, or the support in order to make that happen. So it's something we're incredibly excited about, and it's been amazing listening to our own community get behind it as well. Sounds
fantastic. Listen, I think that's as good a place to bring it to a close. Tell us, where's the best place to find you, Ben? Is it just on the website? What's the URL of the website? And then do you have any other kind of closing thoughts or things you'd like to share with anyone who's listening?
No closing thoughts other than, you know, really always happy to talk to anyone who's building. Always happy to talk to anyone who's building something. You can find us at Easol.com, and my email is ben@Easol.com. And always happy to chat. Always happy to chat to anyone who's doing something. If I can help in any way, reach out.
Fantastic. Okay, Ben, thanks so much for coming on. It's been great to talk to you. So many interesting things in there. I'll put all the details and stuff in the show notes so people can find you. Looking forward to seeing how the foundation turns out, and following how Easol develops over the coming months and years. So thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Tom.
Take care. Bye.
You can stop scribbling now and give your arm a rest. What a pleasure it was talking to Ben and finding out about the unique experiences that he's had and learning from the many things that he's already achieved. I'm really excited for Easol and would highly recommend checking out what they're doing both on the website and on their various social channels. Go to easol.com, that's EASOL.com, for more information, where you'll also find links to the various social channels to follow what they're up to. And if you're an experienced business, I'm sure you'll find their platform extremely interesting, so it's certainly worth a look around. As Ben mentioned, his email is ben@easol.com, so if you want to get in touch with him directly, he was very kind to put that out to everyone to get in touch and have a chat. If you go to seotravel.co.uk/Ben-Simpson, so that's BEN-SIMPSON, for all the show notes and links to the various things that Ben mentioned there. You can also watch the video of the conversation and visit seotravel.co.uk/podcasts for the other episodes where you can get lots of other insight too. We've had some great other guests so far to listen to over there. If you're a travel company looking for marketing support from people who really care about your success, then please do get in touch at seotravel.co.uk, and we'd love to hear from you. You can also read more about our 100% initiative there, which outlines how we give all the profit we make from the business to educational charities, both at home and around the world. We'd love your support in spreading the word about that so we can help those charities as much as possible with what we're doing. If you enjoyed the show, it would be fantastic if you could review it on iTunes and share what your favourite bits were. Subscribe to it as well, and it would be fantastic if you could share it with at least one person who you think would benefit from the insight that Ben shared there. I'd love to hear from you and find out what you enjoyed so we can continue to bring more content like this your way and make it as entertaining and helpful for you as possible. My email is tom@seotravel.co.uk, so please do get in touch. If you haven't already, please do give our other episodes a listen. There's some great stuff in there, some really fantastic guests, and we've had lots of amazing stories from the people that we've spoken to. We've also got loads more great people coming up, so do stay tuned for future episodes. And when you subscribe, you'll get notified whenever we do release a new episode, so you can stay one step ahead of the game. Otherwise, thanks so much for listening, and until next time, happy travels.